Hey kids, Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Now, if you've been a long-term viewer of the channel, you may remember a video I posted back in August 2017, August the 13th, 2017 to be precise, where this happened. Now that fresh-faced man-bun CRF jockey that you saw there being waved off by Austin Vince and others at Mill Hill School was in fact Ben King. He was setting off for his round-the-world journey on, as I say, one of these, a Honda CRF. And I'm absolutely chuffed to say that because of a cock-up with visas in Pakistan, he's had to nip back to Blighty for a short period, and he's come to the Missenden Man Cave to give us an update on his adventures so far. So stick around and stay tuned. Let's find out what's been happening to Ben. So here we are with Ben King. Unbelievable. So it's been 16 months since I've seen you.
I can't believe it's been that long.
It's feeling a bit surreal to have you here. It's fantastic to see you again.
You too.
So just in case people didn't see those original videos that we did all that time ago, it seems a lifetime ago now. Must seem like that to you. What was the original intent of the trip? What did you set off to do?
So yes, I set off from the Adventure Film Festival in August 2017 last year.
August the 13th. I looked it up. Yeah.
Wow. And I left from there with the intention of trying to break the world record.
Yep.
And become the youngest person to circumnavigate the world solo and unsupported.
Yep.
That was the initial plan.
Yeah.
And I think I had at that time I had 3 years to do it, which is easily doable. Most people go around the world in a year.
Yeah.
And then after 6 months or so on the journey, I quickly realised that being on the road is just too much fun.
Yeah.
I was having the best time, and 3 years is not enough time to go around the world. So I've now decided to just scrap the record,
right,
and just take my time and enjoy it, because the experiences I'm having, people I'm meeting and getting to really immerse myself in each culture I go to, those experiences far outweigh having my name in a book, which would have been really cool. But I'm having the best time ever. So it's taken me what, 16 months, is it?
Yeah.
To get from London to Pakistan, which is just incredible. It's nuts.
So let's rewind a bit. We saw the clip at the start of the video of us all waving you off at the Mill Hill School on that lovely sunny summer's day when you had a bit of a sticky mattress problem. And that's because I had to wake him up to get him out of bed.
That was brilliant.
So what happened after that? You left Mill Hill and then we didn't hear from you for what it seemed like weeks.
Yes, so I headed down to south of France, and I actually met up with my family.
Right.
So it all worked out well. My family had their annual summer holiday in south of France.
Yeah, nice.
So I went down south of France, met them.
Yeah.
I had a few weeks just relaxing, just enjoying life, because I was so exhausted and run down from all the jobs I had saving up for this trip. And people often ask me, they say, actually, this works out quite well.
Yeah.
People always ask me, they say, how did you fund your trip?
Yeah.
Because I've now been on the road for quite a while. And how did you? I was quite young. I was 21 years old when I left.
Mm-hmm.
How did I fund my trip? And people thought that maybe my parents had funded the whole thing, and the whole trip was funded by myself.
Yeah.
And I worked crazy hours from like 3 o'clock in the morning until midnight for almost 2 years.
That is nuts.
And I just had no break. It was horrendous. I was so run down, so exhausted. I was just running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
I became a zombie by the end of it. And especially towards the end of it, I then had to try and do those jobs. I was working for Waitrose supermarket doing online deliveries, and I'd get the train from Rickmansworth into London, where I worked for Apple Store there. And towards the end of it, I then had to do those jobs, and then on my lunch break, try and sort out visas and the carnet, and it was madness.
No
and then
you were whacked.
I needed that break, and that holiday was I took a break from everything and just enjoyed time with my family before I set off.
I think that's one of the things that I find is so inspirational about you, actually. The fact that you did slog your guts out to get the money together. I've had a few comments actually on the original video saying it's all right for these privileged people being able to do this, and that absolutely is not the case, as you just heard. I mean, 2 jobs for 2 years, midnight till 3. That is not funny. So all credit to you for that. So anyway, down to France, had a nice break, got yourself the mindset sorted. What happened after France?
After France, I can't remember now. Where'd I go? After France, I headed across.
Nürburgring?
Oh yeah, no, that was a funny moment. The Nürburgring. So yeah, before the Nürburgring, I headed over to from France down to the south coast.
Yep.
I actually met up with a cyclist, a friend of mine called Henry, who I actually met in South America 2 years before.
Oh, what?
And it actually weirdly, funny enough, it was actually Henry who was one of the sort of reasons that I did this trip.
Right. Oh, great.
Because when I did a motorcycle trip down South America a few years ago before this trip,
Yeah.
and I met this guy called Henry who was a cyclist. And
did you know he was going to be down there?
I had no idea.
How cool is
And
that?
He was we started planning this big trip, and the plan initially was actually I was going to join Henry, and we were going to do a cycle trip, a big overland cycle trip.
Right.
And then when I got back from South America, got back to London, I got a bicycle out of the shed, and I went down my road on this bicycle. And after like 100 meters, I just passed out. I was exhausted. I was so unfit, and I thought, you know what, the bicycle is not for me. Let's stick with the motorbike, and it's so much better. So, but that sort of that little discussion with Henry and that plan got me looking into a big trip.
Okay, right.
And so when I set off, I then found out. I think Henry sent me a message saying, "Just seeing you've left England. I'm actually currently cycling my bicycle around France." He was on a little bicycle holiday, and so I met him in south of France. And my first experience ever wild camping was with Henry. So he showed me the ropes because he'd been wild camping for like a month at this point.
Right.
Just around Italy and France. So he showed me, how you find a spot, because I knew nothing about wild camping, and it was terrifying. Yeah. You hear noises in the middle of the night, it's awful. But with Henry, it was great. We'd,
Did he have a gun?
I don't think so. But it was incredible. So I had a time with him, then said goodbye to Henry after I'd learned about wild camping and what to do and whatnot, and then headed to Italy. Had an amazing time there. The plan was to go from Italy across to, I think, Slovenia, then to Croatia, and then over to Istanbul, Turkey.
Right.
Then continue to Iran, Pakistan. And I thought I would be in Iran within a few months, initially. And then when I was in Italy, I got a message from this guy on Facebook or Instagram, a guy called Dan Banks. And he messaged me saying, "Hey, just found you on Facebook. I would love to meet you and show you around Switzerland." Oh. He's a British expat, and he moved his family to a little sort of a chalet in the mountains in Switzerland. Amazing location. And well, on this trip, I pretty much always say yes to everything. I never say no, and that's when you have the best experience.
Yeah, I like that attitude.
So I was like, I was at this point. I was sort of down southern Italy, getting ready to sort of head across to Croatia or whatever, and I thought, well, why not? So I headed all the way back the way I'd come and into Switzerland, because I'd decided just to scrap Switzerland and Germany and Europe, because I thought, how exciting can Europe be? I mean, I've never actually been to Europe before, but I thought it can't be that different to England, surely. So I sort of just neglected it and thought I'd continue east as fast as possible. But I thought, well, let's go to Switzerland, why not? So sure enough, I went into the Alps, met up with Dan, stayed with his family in the chalet. He then gave me, he's a biker as well, and he showed me around Switzerland.
And this was still summer at that point, wasn't it?
It was the end of summer now. It was getting a bit colder.
Yeah.
So I should really have headed.
So I'm just thinking, Alps and getting into winter.
I never do any planning. I never look at the weather forecast, and at this point I didn't realise that when people do overland trips, they plan it very carefully so that they follow the seasons. Yeah. Whereas I didn't know this, so
there's some logic in that. You got to admit.
So I was like, most people they'll try and leave around maybe before just at the start of summer. Yeah. So they'll do Europe in the summer. Yeah. By the time when they get east, summer's followed them and they can enjoy the sun and it's never too cold, never too hot, which is smart. Whereas I didn't do that. So I thought, well, let's go north to Switzerland then, as the snow starts to come. Right. And I met with Dan, had the most amazing time there. Then I thought, right, I've had a great time here. Now it's time to continue east towards Istanbul. Then, before I left, Dan said, no, you can't leave. You can't go east. You've got to go and visit my friend, Billy, in the Nürburgring. Right. And this is very embarrassing, but the Nürburgring is a very famous place, a bucket list place for many people, for bikers and car drivers. I'd never heard of it. Right. And Billy was like, so Dan was like, oh, you must go to the Nürburgring. You've got to do it. Maybe they can get you a lap on the track as well. Yeah. And I was like, that sounds awesome. That sounds really cool. I've always wanted to go there. I had no clue what it was. So I Googled it. Turns out it's this famous Formula 1 Grand Prix track. So I turn up. I continue further north. So I'd literally done a massive U. I'd head down south of France, and I was now heading back up north. And
it's certainly a circuitous route, isn't it?
It was great.
It could take a while to get around the world.
But I hadn't planned a route at all. My plan initially was to plan my route through Europe when I got the ferry. Yeah. When I left the film festival, the plan was to get on the ferry and look on a map, from Kent down to Calais. Yeah. But when I got on the ferry, I fell asleep. So I was so exhausted. So I never had the time to and then I met my family and had no time to route plan.
Technical point, hang on a second. I'm just checking the time because I'm conscious that this camera, when we originally met with Austin Vince, you remember the camera shut off after half an hour. And he does like to chat.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just keeping on. Right, carry on. Sorry. Okay. So we're at the Nürburgring. And we've probably talked about 10 minutes. Okay,
I hope you haven't got any plans for the next few months. I can keep going. And then end up the Nürburgring and stay with this guy called Billy and his wife Helen and their kids. And they just welcomed me into the family. Brilliant. And it was just the most amazing experience. I felt like I'd known them for years. Great. And I ended up staying there for about a month or so, almost, I think, at the Nürburgring.
Fabulous.
And
so now it must be getting into winter.
Now it's getting into winter, and people are getting very angry at me online.
Right.
Why
are you not getting on?
They're like, "What's wrong with you? You're supposed to go around the world. I thought this was a world tour, not a tour of Germany and the Nürburgring."
Yeah.
But I was having the best time because I got to know all the people there,
Yeah.
and I got loads of passenger laps in these supercars. I then got to take my little CRF 250 on the track.
How good was
that was amazing. And then my plan was then to head east, but then I got a message from someone on Instagram saying, "Hey, come to Amsterdam and we'll service your bike for you." And I was like, well, why not? So I said yes. So then I headed even further north, and I think at one point I was actually further north than London at one point. So then head up there. I had an amazing experience there. That was really cool. And then
Europe is quite good, it turns out.
and then eventually, when I was there, the exhaust. This actually burnt a hole through my soft bags. I had these Krieger soft luggage, and this little makeshift rack which we did with Austin.
I remember it well, yeah.
Oh, is that? Yeah. And the exhaust actually burnt a hole through the bags, and they were
much for the rack then.
And I tried to patch them up, but it didn't work. So eventually, I was like, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
So then I ended up putting these Touratech boxes on the CRF 250. Yeah. And while I was in Amsterdam, this random welder who was part of the bike club there. We managed to get the side rack from a GS 1200.
Right.
We got the bar at the back, which connects the two rack things. That was the handlebars from a KTM 690.
Oh right.
No, that was a Triumph. That was a Triumph Explorer, and then the other side was the rack from a KTM 690, I think.
Oh, so Austin would be proud then. There was some makeshiftness in there. Excellent.
So it was
Thank goodness you've redeemed yourself.
So it was a Honda bike with a BMW on this side rack, and then Triumph, and so it was like, it included all the bikes. So, and that rack has lasted ever since.
Brilliant.
And so that's how I managed to install the Touratech boxes, if anyone's wondering why I changed boxes.
I did wonder how you did that. When I bought this cheap eBay one, I thought, it's not anywhere near as good as Ben's. But anyway.
And then eventually I headed east, and by this time it's now winter. So I get down to Munich, and I've never been on snow before.
Right.
On the bike. And within like 5 minutes, I was on the floor.
Okay.
And that was quite a fun experience.
Yeah.
And then headed down into Austria.
Did you hurt yourself at this stage? Because I'm sure there's some stories coming soon about some injuries.
At this point, no.
Okay.
I've crashed over 100 times.
Right.
But never had any serious injuries up until about a year in or so. Because the gear I've got has just been incredible. Yeah. So, and I'm super skinny as well, so I need like lots of protection. So that was fine. Headed into Austria, crazy snow as well. Yeah. Then down to Slovenia. Also crazy snow. There was this place called Lake Bled, which I'd heard about in Slovenia. This is all the postcard photos of this lake with this little church in the middle and this little island, and it's like green, lush mountains. And I was like, that'd be amazing. So I arrived there in the middle of the night, and in the morning I wake up and expecting to see this beautiful landscape, and it's just white. Yeah. It snowed overnight, crazy snow, not a single person in sight, and the Lake Bled was just amazing.
So where were you staying at this point? Are you wild camping?
Yes. So when I was at this point I was wild camping in Austria. So basically at this point I've been staying with just random people that I just met. Yeah. You know, I'd pull over at a service station. Someone would come over and say, "Hey, do you want a coffee?" I'd be like, "Yeah, why not?" Yeah. And then they say, "Oh, where are you staying?" I say, "I'm just gonna get my tent." Sometimes they say, "Oh, come and stay with us, or you can have dinner with us, or whatever."
So that was a gambit. You tell them you haven't found anywhere, and you're going to and then hope they take pity, right? That's good.
So, but it didn't happen. I wasn't staying. I mean, as you get further east, the hospitality gets even better. Yeah. But in Europe, it was pretty good. Yeah. So I was doing a bit of wild camping as well, and then so that was an incredible time in Slovenia. That was amazing in that snow. And then social media actually has been amazing. Yeah. I've never been a big fan of, considering I'm now like every day I'm posting now on Instagram and Facebook, but. Before this, when I did South America and Asia, my bike trips before, I never had a phone. I got rid of all social media because I wanted to clear my head and get away from it.
Now, on this note, I've had a few people say to me since you left, I can't find Ben. What's he? Where is he? How's he doing? Which is amazing because Ben is the most prolific social media person I know. You're on there several times. I don't know how you get time to do it. You're on everything basically, aren't you? So I will stick links below this video. If you want to follow Ben's exploits once he's back on track again, then all the links will be below. Sorry, carry on.
Yes. So it's the king on the road for Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah. So but social media's been absolutely amazing because people have got in touch with me through Facebook or Instagram.
Isn't technology great?
And said, when you get to here, I'd love to host you in my house, or maybe give you some food, or service your bike, or whatever.
So what proportion would you say you've done wild camping versus been in somebody's house?
Oh, I spent more time in people's houses than I have wild camping.
Really? How good is that?
My plan was to camp.
Have you actually had to pay to stay anywhere in a hotel or anything yet? What sort of proportion are we looking at there?
Actually, I don't. Have I ever paid?
Well, so probably, if you can't remember,
not
probably not.
I think
Minimal,
very
minimal.
few times. Yeah,
Wow, isn't that
because I'm traveling, and also people ask me how have you managed to survive on this trip for so long.
Yeah,
So obviously I did all those hours of working,
yeah. But you haven't
but
spent too much.
when you get on the road, you know, you could spend lots of money if you are staying at hotels every single night,
Of course,
and if
yeah.
you're, you know, if you're
I remember this is something that Austin said to us on that first video we did, didn't we, some while back, a couple of years ago now, was actually when you're on the road, it doesn't cost you very much to do it.
that's it.
It's basically fuel, isn't it?
That's it. Once you've got the bike and you've got your gear and you've got all the camping stuff, whatever. Once you've got all that stuff,
Yeah.
the upfront cost is the biggest
Yeah.
expense.
And things like the car now, I suppose.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a nightmare. Oh my word! But once you've got all the upfront stuff,
Yeah.
once you're on the road, it's actually pretty cheap. It can be expensive if you travel in luxury and you want to stay in hotels every night and you want to eat out. Then yes, it's expensive.
Have you seen my Arctic tour to the Norway?
Oh no! Oh.
Sorry, that was
The Scandinavia is crazy
It's amazing
expensive.
up there. But it was, that was quite pricey. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, but if you can slum it, like I've been doing, then you can travel very cheaply. You know, I cook all my food from my stove if I'm while camping, and you know.
But when you say slum it, I've seen some of your pictures on Instagram and on Facebook and so on. Number one, it's not always slumming it, is it?
Oh,
And
definitely
also,
not.
Soon we'll get to some stories. We just had a cup of tea before we got started here, and Ben was telling me some stories which you're going to love, but we'll get to those in a minute. So it's not such a hard time.
It's not. It's basically, yeah. So if you slum it through Europe, which is expensive, as you get further east, hospitality just gets better and better, and
Right.
people will host you.
Okay.
We'll get onto that later on. But yeah, so after
So Slovenia, you then went on.
I went through all the Balkans.
Yep.
And by this point, it is now middle of winter. So
It did look a bit grim, I must.
yeah, and if you're planning a trip into the Balkans towards sort of Bosnia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Croatia, you need this thing called a green card.
Right.
Which basically lots of these countries won't let you in without the green card. It's like an insurance thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it because I hadn't done any research, obviously.
Why would you?
So I didn't know anything about it, and I found out later on that some people have actually paid like a lot of money just for a few days, temporary green card permit, just to get in, which can be sometimes hundreds to get through the Balkans. I didn't know anything about this, so I turn up at the border crossing from Bosnia to Serbia or whatever, and it's middle of snow. There's no vehicles on the road, just me, because no one's stupid enough to go on a vehicle, let alone a motorbike. There weren't even any cars, and I turn up, and the little guy in the border opens up his little flap, sees me, and just laughs.
Right.
And he's like, what are you doing here? What's wrong with you? You must be seriously deluded.
Yeah.
And he just waved me on. He just said, just go.
Really?
Like didn't want anything. Then the next place, they said, oh, do you have your green card thing as well? And I was like, I've never heard of it before. They said, well, you must have needed it to get to this country. I said, no, they just waved me on, and they were like, oh. So then they also waved me on, and then every single border in the Balkans they just waved me on and didn't.
How good is that?
Whereas I've heard of people going in the summertime
And getting
when all the guys go, that they ask for this thing. Whereas if you want to go to the Balkans, go in the wintertime because they'll think you're nuts and stupid, and they'll just let you go through.
Yeah, wow.
So that was amazing.
Yeah.
Crazy experience. I had some crazy days there.
Yeah.
While camping and in the snow, and it was just nuts.
So what are the tips for camping in the snow? Because I don't do camping in the sunshine and warm, let alone snow. So how the hell do you keep cold? You were telling me you were camping at -20 a few weeks back.
It was
What do you do in
it
those
was at
situations?
-15.
Oh, it's
it
about
was,
4 degrees near, and I'm absolutely freezing now. So
It's,
I'm going to get my coat in a minute.
so I've got also the worst thing is.